Saharan dust cloud.
Yeah, I don't know where it's recording to now, but heck, we'll see. I don't know. I'm going to hit audio recording too. Boom.
Okay. Here, I'm actually going to like kind of center that up a little bit because I realize like this angle that we got is like you guys don't need to see all my board games and shit. Anyway.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't know exactly how we wanted to format this, but this is kind of we'll see what happens. All right.
Yeah. Let's play around a little bit. I know you want to try and keep this like about 30 minutes or so, or what was your just like fairly digestible, like bite-sized.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could I'm already recording. I think we could wax poetically about Saison DuPont for probably hours upon hours, especially the more Saison DuPont we drink. But anyway, I'm going to hit this thing over here. I think you'll hear it. And no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add that post-production. Never mind. This is our first one. Sorry, everybody.
No, hey.
You ready? You know what?
Yeah, let's do it. We've been doing it.
Yeah, you know what? Here's my thing. I want you to embrace your newfound time and ability. You're co-hosting these episodes, Keenan. So, do you want to do the intro? Do it a bit like an intro or something.
Yeah, I know. What are we calling this? Just
well, I was kind of thinking InterBrews deep dives, but it's kind of whatever. Deep dive, whatever. Yeah. That's not very creative.
Yeah, well, we can brainstorm. Just episode 1 is InterBrews deep dive, volume 1.
Volume 1. Saison DuPont.
Saison DuPont. You've already opened yours up, you haven't opened yours up yet.
No, I wanted to really start. Like, okay, so this is the reason I brought up this idea when we did our episode of a full episode of InterBrews. I think it's 241. I believe it's episode 241. Everybody, go back and listen to that. It's a full hour and a half-ish of just Keenan and I just discussing the world and everything in it, and it's so worth the wait. And there's also some exclusive stuff on the Patreon page there, the InterBrews Patreon page. So go listen to that too. But we discussed doing these shows, and there's so many good beers out there, right? Like really, really good beer. Like we both love beer. Like I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's a bit of an understatement, but yeah, it's a really important thing in our lives.
Yeah, so it's cool that I get to talk, on the podcast. It's typically at a brewery, not lately. Typically, though, not like the last 18 episodes since we've been under lockdown for the last 14 years or however long it's been. It seems like a long time. But anyway,
yeah,
I don't get to just wax poetically about my love for just particular beers because we're talking about the brewery and events and things in Houston and stuff. And this is one of those beers, Keenan, where like on New Year's Eve, this is always my New Year's Eve beer. Mm-hmm. I always want to start a year right. When the clock strikes midnight, New Year's Eve, and it clicks from like say 2019 to 2020, and I know it's a year full of promise. An opportunity and potential and just all the promise. And it's this beer. And the presentation of this beer, just when you the bottle, the shape of the bottle, the logo, the cork and the cage, just the feel of the whole thing.
Saison DuPont is kind of in the a special realm of beers because it's kind of a granddaddy. Like it's been around in the U.S. market for quite some time, and so kind of in the I don't know, maybe kind of if it's second wave or third wave craft beer enthusiasts, where maybe call it like my age when I was getting into craft beer. Man, there was something just like next level, like top shelf with these Belgian beers, Unibrow in Canada doing that noise. They have like La Fin du Monde and Trois Pistoles, and there's a whole bunch of those bottle conditioned beers where at a time they elicited a certain romance to them and a certain sense of class that, if you're going from, Coors Light, the Silver Bullet, or you're going from, that from even a Sierra Nevada, like their heritage style, sort of like squattier bottles, moving up to one of these larger format 750 mil bottle conditioned imported, because Saison DuPont still made in Belgium.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, these beers, or this beer in particular, is in a class that elicits a certain romance to it.
Yeah, and again, just the history of this beer. I mean, the farm that it's a legit farmhouse beer, right? You hear that that's a style, a BJCP style, whatever, right? It's got classifications and all that kind of stuff. But the farm dates back to 1759, and the beer, they started brewing the beer in like 1840.
Yeah, mid 1800s. Like this brewery has been in operation like longer than Texas has been a state.
Yes, and the recipe, and I'll let you speak on that because you're the brewer. I mean, I've brewed some beers, but you're a brewer.
Yeah, with a capital B.
Yeah,
like I've so admittedly, so we just kind of in preparing for this episode and getting into this, I watched a little this little like 5-minute video, this little interview with their head brewer, and of course it's real sexy. You get the nice little music in the background, really amping it up. But as I'm watching this video of it, and they're kind of giving you a little backstage, like you're getting little shots of like, here's them milling the grain, and here's them, doing this or that. And there was a lot of parts where I'm sitting here going just like, oh, what's this? This is kind of a cool, like archaic, like, at one point I'm like, this is a cool little like steam room. Like maybe they're sanitizing something or something's going on. And then I realized, no, this is their mill. That is all grain flour just floating around in the air. And of course, the first thing that catches my eye the first connection I make when I see that is that poor guy standing there isn't wearing any PPE. He's got no dust mask. Like he's going to get that malt lung real bad, and he's going to be dead here in a month. But it just the fact that like they're still using a lot of the same equipment that they've probably been using for 50 to 100 years. And there, you still see there are some parts where they got a lab, they've got, some shinier, newer parts, but there's also components where it's like, yeah, this thing works just fine. We don't need a new kettle because the current kettle works.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like the direct fire kettle, he just kind of mentions, we get a little caramelization. I mean, he says it in French or whatever they're speaking. And it's, again, brasserie, like brasserie. That's a cool
brasserie.
Brasserie it's spelled for us Texans, Torpez.
Yeah, I've been down to Torpez.
Yeah, we went to Torpez for the Cajun festival or what, I don't know, but it's Tup or whatever he said. It was like, I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try. It's not the language I took.
I took half a semester of French, and then when I realized it wasn't a requirement to graduate high school, I dropped it.
Yeah.
And never looked back. I kind of wish I'd stuck with it because French, for this episode would have been great.
It would have been great. But yeah, so you know what? I wanna really get into this beer, and I think this is so I don't know. Are we recording video or are we just doing audio on this?
I've got video recording somewhere out in space somewhere. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it.
Yeah, we'll call it from the cloud or.
Technically, I think this is Kennedy's. I think this is his account, so he's paying for it. I don't know.
Thanks, Kennedy.
I don't know how it's working. What's happening. He's probably seeing it right now and wondering what the heck's going on. But yes, hopefully this will be video. And if not,
so the whole reason I bring that up is because I poured my sample into one of my preferred glasses, and you poured your sample, and so I had poured mine maybe a few minutes before yours did, or before you poured yours, and I started drinking it, and I'm going, you know what, this is, and I'll be the first to say it's been a hot minute since I've had a Saison DuPont, but mine is a little underwhelming. And so I'm just full disclosure. I ordered this, contactless pickup from the Total Wine near my house. So I before we get really into the like chewing on this beer, I was going to say, what's the bottled on date for your bottle of Saison DuPont? Because we both have 750 mil bottles.
Yes, we do. Let's see. Bottled on. Oh, here we go. 905 of 19. Okay.
So we are drinking dramatically different beers.
All right.
Because mine is, I'm assuming this is just November and not like the 1st of January, but I've got November of 2016.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I have got, I'm not going to say shelf turd, because you know what? That, first off, that's hateful, but this is a testament to how good this beer is, because these flavors what I'm drinking, it's like, there's not a lot of big flavors popping. Some of the carbonations maybe a little reduced. I don't have anywhere near as much head retention. You can't, if you can see the video, this head retention is great. Like,
I can't even get to my beer. I have to.
Josh is like a full 4 fingers of head retention.
I could probably get it to stand up over. I could probably get it to stand up over the glass. Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, you probably could. I tried with mine, and I got pretty good, but it dissipated fairly quick. But this is a great, like, this is in some regards, this is the hallmark of an excellent beer, because Saison DuPont has quite a lot of hop character to it. Like, it is not a like low bitterness beer. It's got a lot of yeast character to it. There's a whole lot going on in this beer. And I have got a batch that is, and help me with my math, but like 3.5 years old. Lord knows how long it's been sitting on a warm shelf in the back of Total Wine, or it's been sitting in some warehouse just rotting.
Yeah.
And it is still a decent beer. I have got little to no oxidation on it, which, like, show me a modern, like, show me a hoppy craft beer here in America that can sit in a warehouse for 3.5 years and not just be toast.
Yeah.
And it still has some flavor. Like, if you were to pop this for, and maybe one of those, like, you don't tell everybody exactly what it is, but you were to pop this and serve it, it's still a really beautiful ghost of what it was. It hasn't become bad beer. It's just less good Saison DuPont.
Yeah, it's like watching Michael Jordan for the Wizards. Yeah,
no, I mean, and I understand that reference. I am not a sports guy, so I'm just like, yes, I know that one. But you just a, like, man, this is not in its prime, but it is still, like, I can tell you right now, like, on a BJCP scorecard or whatever, this 3.5-year-old Saison would probably score higher than some smaller craft brewery Saisons, like fresh. And so, yeah, it's just one of those, I have my brewer hat on where I'm sitting here going, like, or rather my consumer hat sitting here going, like, well, this is disappointing. I paid however many dollars for this, 3.5-year-old beer. Like, what a ripoff, Total Wine. Please sponsor us, Total Wine. But
I got mine at Total Wine too. Which one did you get yours at?
The Willowbrook.
Okay, I got mine at the one in the Woodlands, the new.
Got you. Yeah, so that'll probably do it. I have a hard time finding a good local like craft beer selection, but that's neither here nor there. But I don't remember where we were all going with that. But but I put my brewer hat on, and I can just say from a technical standpoint, the fact that we've got such flavor stability and such just quality stability in the sense that this is decent at 3.5 years old, rotten on a shelf. I don't note any dust on the bottle, but like, who knows? They could have just wiped that off before they put it in my box.
Right. It's interesting when, that's the knock I hear on Saison DuPont is that it's hit or miss what we get here.
Yeah.
Because Toup is very far away. It's almost over France. And the way they bottle condition this beer, it's one of those things like there's that awesome video, I think we're talking about the same video, where he, the head brewer, he's like, when it's ready, it's ready. We're not ever going to send it out early. We're not going to rush it. We're not trying to meet quotas or whatever. I get, it's like, and it's like the Joe Rogan podcast of beers approach.
Yeah. Well, and
call your shots.
Admittedly, there's a little part of me that, granted, not knowing their business, but also like looking at this video and it's like, when it's ready, it's ready. I'm like, you know what? I have said that line so many times while in the background, I'm like,
do not crush my dreams, Keenan.
Where I'm just like, you know what? Shit, we do have production quotas to meet and this does have to get out.
Yeah.
And it's when it's ready, it's ready. And you better believe I'm going to bust my ass to get it ready.
Yeah.
Because as brewers, there's little tips and tricks you can do to speed up batches. There's I'm not going to say corners to cut, but there are manipulations that you can do to meet demands. But Saison DuPont's also in a different position because, you can't compare them to, a modern American craft brewery. Like, I don't know what their barrelage or their hectoliters are over in.
Yeah, I think what did I see? 20. Where did I say? Oh yeah, 20,000 hectoliters.
Okay, that's nothing. So here, I'm gonna just convert that over for you real quick. 20,000 hectoliters. Yeah.
Do you have an app for that? That's amazing. Man, you brewers have everything.
No, this isn't a nap. This is just.
I'm going to go with, I'm going to say a little bit about food pairing real quick while you're working on that math. I had some roasted chicken, the thighs. I'm a dark meat man myself. I think it has much more flavor.
Oh, no, agreed.
In depth. Roasted in the oven, a little bit of Creole type seasoning. So a little cayenne, garlic, onion, paprika, thyme, not oregano, thyme and maybe a little oregano, salt, pepper, all that kind of stuff. Skin nice and crispy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The charry bits on the bones, where it just got perfect. And then some roasted veggies, and just pairs perfectly with this beer. As far like I've had meals with this beer where it got lost. This beer, it's great with a lot of things.
Yes.
But it can get lost with, say, like a steak or something like that sometimes.
Yeah. And that's one of the, so beer food pairings, and for record, that's that barrelage number. Hectoliters to barrels it's pretty darn close, but it's, something under 25,000 barrels. So, for point of reference, what St. Arnold's does a little over 50,000, 60,000 barrels or so. I think, I don't know, we can get somebody on St. Arnold's to come in and confirm those numbers.
Right.
But that's, for a brewery that's over 150 years old, or I guess getting close to 200 years old, the fact that I mean, that's still such a small quantity of beer to be producing, and that's also considering that beer, they're still serving a local population in addition to sending stuff out export. It's but they have the luxury of being able to produce on a small scale, again, because they've been around for 150, 200 years.
Right.
Like, a lot of their bills have been paid.
I was gonna say, I bet you that mortgage, unless they went with like the 400-year mortgage, they're probably past that. And that's and the Saison is not the only beer that they produce. That's one thing we don't get as many over here. But they have a blonde, a brune. Let's see, the Évêque Les Bons Vol de la Saison DuPont. It's their strong golden, right?
Yeah.
And a few others.
And I mean, so they've got a wide variety, and I seem to recall reading that their strong, like their golden strong, is their big seller. Like, that's what they do their most volume of. But yeah, going back to beer pairings, I mean, I love pairing beer with food, or rather pairing. Yeah, making sure I got the order right. Pairing beer with food. Sometimes I do the other way around too. But beer is the superior beverage, at least alcoholic beverage, to pair with food, because the nature of beer, just having an herbal component from your hops, having a malty component, or a sweet bready component from various grains. You can get some fruity characters just from your yeast production. Basically, you've got this whole complex and frankly pretty loud, in comparison to wine, this very wide array of flavors all presented at you. And then if you look at beer as a spectrum, you've got so many different flavors you can work with. And it's not like wine where you're like, okay, what do you taste in this? And it's like, well, there's oak. Like, okay, cool. What foods pair with wood? And I'm like, well, I don't eat wood ever, so that's like not really there. And so with a beer like Saison DuPont, you've got an herbal component. So like, talking about having that sort of like Cajun Creole chicken, it's like, cool. That herbal component is going to pair really well with the herbal components in your dish. Especially in a beer like this, which is, I'm using noble hops, using continental European varieties. So that's just like, boom, talking about oregano, like that's gonna like pair up together with that perfectly. Those spice characters, throwing in like Creole Cajun seasoning, it's like, cool, that's gonna pair up with the 4-vinyl guaiacol, the clove notes that are in this. And it's like, cool, boom, boom, you're getting that like 1 + 1 is 3 action going on, tasting, smelling, just getting into it. But especially with pairing, and like talking about why this is like, talking about breaking it out at New Year's Eve, is like, I mean, first off, it's sexy as hell, and it kind of looks sort of champagne-y. It's like the true champagne of beers. But it's also got a decent alcohol to it. Like, it's like 6.5% alcohol, and fairly dry. And that alcohol helps you to cut through fat, or helps you to pair with fat. And so something like Creole chicken thighs with got a little bit of oregano, like some vegetables going on there. It's like, boom, you're getting your broad spectrum plant notes, herbal notes. You're getting a little bit of sweetness to help balance against heat from whatever you've got. Carbonation, alcohol helps to cut through the fat from chicken thighs, helps to deal with, like, helps to really play up the heat characters from some of the spices. Like, and then you go like, man, that's, boom, what a perfect combination. And then you can start working backwards and going, man, let's think of other foods that have fat and herbs and spices. And again, with the exception of like much heavier things, a la like, you've got a ribeye steak. It's like, okay, Saison DuPont might not be the best one, but this is a beer that could be paired, especially here in Texas, with probably like 75% of the dishes that we go out to eat.
Yeah. Back when we would go out to eat.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was some, I mean, like, I know, man. Don't even get me started.
I'll say this. I think in 2020, despite the horribleness that is 2020 in and of itself, I think there's a lot of restaurants now and even craft beer. Well, not even, where we have a great palette or a great selection of craft beers to pair with whatever they're serving.
Mm-hmm.
But something like this is missing at most places. Like to bring out the bottle and then, because everything, to me, everything about this beer is just the present, from the, and it's all of that plays into it. To me, I think that emotional, I don't know what it is. But it's this emotion, the feel good hormones and all that.
It's, I mean, with like a capital S, it's sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a pint of beer, and nothing wrong with going down to like Flying Saucer and getting a pint of beer.
Yeah.
But there is something about the, like, this is a bottle conditioned, imported from Belgium, world-class beer that, like, it's special.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can't, I mean, you have to kind of seek out.
Yep.
And admittedly, it's sort of at odds, and this is something that's kind of plagued me in my entire, like, brewing education and brewing career, is this line between, like, romantic beer service and just common beer service, where you can go into a fine dining establishment and you could go buy a $100 bottle of wine, and that's like on the cheap end, to go with like your phenomenal, like, steak, salmon, you got the big, like, bone-in pork chop, like the sexy stuff. You could, gosh, you're talking about eating out. Now you got me. We're going to do another episode just on, like, foods that we wish we could go out and eat. That's the next deep dive. But in all of those, or you go into a restaurant like that, you have that kind of experience. If you wanted to get a bottle of wine, you could go buy a $100 bottle of wine with corkage, where someone, they bring the bottle out to you, they pop the cork, you smell it, you go, yes, no, and it's service, and it's an experience, a little dance you go through. But with beer, if you were to go into the same restaurant, chances are they would have, their beer buyer would have selected a certain number of beers. It might not be anything bottled, might not be anything bottle conditioned, nothing like purchased to pair. It's just for the people that like to drink beer instead of wine. And so it's kind of just beer for the common drinker. They might be like, okay, I know Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is a safe bet, or hey, this local IPA, or this local whatever. But no one's going out and saying, you know what, we've got, because like this Saison DuPont, this would pair excellently with some seafood dishes. Like, I mean, hell, Belgian beer and like mussels and like clams, and like that's like textbook. And I think some of that comes down to just a lack of education, a lack of like perceived demand on that part of a restaurant, which is all the more reason why the work of I believe it's Ray Daniels. I'm gonna probably shoot myself later for forgetting the name.
Cicerone.
But the Cicerone program. Yeah. Working on trying to elevate beer service, beer presentation, so that when you can have that mind-blowing sort of romantic beer service. Because, man, like, and I was gonna say everybody, but plenty of people have had great experiences like going to restaurants and like, you know, you're there for an anniversary with your loved one, like you get a bottle of wine, or like, you know, you get big fancy cocktails and they come out with their cool flutes or whatever. But then if you're like, you know what I want for my next round, I want a beer. And it's like, cool, here's your Boston shaker, your shaker pint. And it's like dirty glass, like, or, you know, it's just like, okay, cool. You want a Bud Light? We got Shiner. And that disconnect has always been a little heartbreaking for me.
Yeah. I think there's probably a Sunday sermon, the fall of man, which is Bud Light, right? This is the condition we found ourselves in. But then where we were supposed to be, go back to Eden, and it was Saison DuPont when Adam was when he was first pulled up out of the dirt, out of the earth, a farmhouse beer. You know, this was what the Almighty had when He thought of man to co-rule with Him for over the earth, subdue and be fruitful and multiply that farmhouse yeast and just get all those peppery notes and everything. There's a Sunday sermon there somewhere. I don't know. I'm gonna have to work out the
No, and I think you're absolutely right. So yeah, your beer still has like a good like 2 inches of head on it.
It really does. It's
like
awesome.
It's phenomenal. And there are other breweries in the United States that are making excellent American saisons, or when I say American saisons, I mean excellent saisons in America. Not trying to differentiate like the American style of saison or the like, you know, European, Belgian, French, whatever. I know Funkworks, their saison is highly regarded. I've had good version. I have had good glasses of it. Can't say that I've bought a good bottle of it, because I haven't bought any bottles of it. And so like I know that there are excellent saisons, and then of course on the local level all across the country, people make, you know, craft breweries take a stab at it and they make a pretty decent one. But I also think that there's a certain, like, it's kind of a not a lost style, but I think it's also a bit standoffish. It's that it's a style that isn't loud about what it's supposed to be. Saison, because there's a little bit of everything going on right there. Like you've got ester notes, you've got spice and clove notes, you've got a little bit of malt character, you've got some alcohol, but it's not over the top, it's not boozy. Like, it's kind of just here's everything, figure it out for yourself, find what part of it you love.
I don't see on here, I'm looking just at a brief, I don't think they don't do open fermentation for this, I don't think.
I think in watching that one of those videos I watched, they were talking about doing their the head brewer was saying like, yeah, we still use the like square tanks, and it's like, and those are traditionally open fermented, or at least, for a primary fermentation, doing an open fermentation.
They're saying that they've observed that the fermentation temperature has reached mid-90s.
Yeah, and that's not surprising for some saisons. Saison yeast strain is kind of notorious for having like it rockets through everything, but then like that last little bit of fermentation, it just drags its feet and just goes, all right, cool, I'll do a little bit today. And so, that first week of fermentation, you're just like, oh yeah, this is the best. And then you hit like 6 days and you're like, cool, are you done? You check it day 7 and it's like, oh, I dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, well, cool. We're going to be done with that tomorrow. We're going to crash it, keep moving. And then you check it the next day and it's like, no, I just dropped a little bit more, just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it'll just keep chewing through it. Oftentimes depending on the yeast strain, I'll say we're about to start getting into like brewing, like hullabaloo territory, but some saison strains have a genetic uniqueness, and I forget the name of the of this particular gene trait, but basically they have the ability to convert some dextrins, basically longer chain sugars, into smaller sugars. So that's part of the reason why in doing like this Saison or talking about brewing Saisons where it'll ferment, 90% of it, and then the yeast will kind of keep chewing away at some of the longer sugars that are in the beer, continuing to ferment down and getting it drier and drier and drier. Man, this is just admittedly, it's been a long time, because let's also talk for a brief moment, maybe just to kind of wrap things up, about how refreshing it is to have a large format bottle.
Right? There's not many of these out there.
No. There was a time like 10 years ago where it was just like, bombers are the best. Like, we're going to a bottle share.
Yeah.
And, sometime in the last 5 years, it's just like, man, large format's dead.
Yeah, it is.
But man, there is just something delightful about the, 750 popping a cork in a cage. It's a delightful experience for sure.
Yeah, and for a 6.5% beer, it's about the perfect amount for a dinner plus. Whatever,
It's a perfect amount for one person for the whole evening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, everybody's different. There's some people that are like, I'll take 2.
Yeah.
But but as an excellent example, like I popped this one, for sitting down and talking about this, and my wife's waiting there with her glass, and I'm just like, okay, cool, this is perfect. Like I'll have a pint, you'll have about a pint, perfect.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good sharing beer. I love this beer for people who have never seen the big format for the cork in the cage and all that. They've never seen that.
Yes.
And you get to present beer as as we see it. It's like every beer, even in bottle, small bottles, cans, whatever. We know when we see that there's a beautiful beer in there. Most likely, if it's a local, there's something in there. We're going to be like, this is going to be awesome, right?
Yeah,
even if it's
and you know what, and even if it's, I can tell you the number of times, actually, just thinking off the top of my head, I don't think I've ever had a bad cork and cage bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that's been bottle conditioned from a brewery, I don't think I've had a bad experience with. Which, now that I think about that, it's like, that's pretty telling. Like there's a lot there. And and I was just thinking of this, and I'm glad that we did Saison DuPont as our first one, our inaugural one, talking about these, doing these deep dives, because Saison DuPont is a beautiful, perfect summer beer.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got 4th of July coming up. A lot of people are going to be spending their time inside. Like, Saison DuPont and like a good grilled hamburger.
Yeah.
Like some caramelized onions and like, I don't know, you could throw a bunch of other great stuff in there. Dude, blue cheeseburger, boom, done.
Yeah, it's like the cheese. Like if we had time, we're coming up to 40 minutes. We're like, let's keep these tight, right?
Oh, because we could keep talking about this beer.
If we went into cheese and then like maybe like dessert, I'm thinking for dessert something like you could like some sort of custard or some sort of creme brulee or something. Maybe not chocolate, maybe not.
No,
I don't know that it would shine through.
You wouldn't go anything. You wouldn't go that rich, but
maybe white chocolate, maybe a little maybe a little white, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. See, I was gonna say like a little fruit tart.
Yeah, like maybe like raspberry or blueberry on like, I don't know.
With just a little like pastry, like a little pie dough, like blueberry pie, man. No ice cream.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, but that's like sacrilege. Like you got to have the ice cream on the pie. Like, but
sure. I mean, I I'm gonna eat the pie either way. I'll be honest.
Yeah, no. I'm not gonna turn my nose at the pie.
I'm not gonna turn a pie away. Get out your way. You're not a la mode.
Yeah.
Take
no. This
take
body
your,
was built by
hit
pie.
the bricks. Hit the bricks there. Non la mode or whatever. No la mode.
Yeah. I think that this is, and in a world of, hey, what's new? Like, what's your new limited release? What's this, the new fruited beer, hazy IPA, adjunct stout, like whatever the sexiest thing you just pushed out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's easy to get caught up in what's new. And I really think that there's a lot to be said for coming back. And if you haven't had a bottle of Saison DuPont in the last year, just do it.
Yeah. I would say there's a couple of principles. Beer, if you're a lover of beer, take some time away from beer, a couple weeks, a couple times a year, just to kind of recalibrate, and then just to let yourself, you know what I'm saying? Just to get you ready. And then go back to these pillar beers. I'm going to call it a pillar, like a pillar of what makes what brought people to loving beer so much. Like there's a reason Garrett Oliver in the Brewmasters table talks about this Saison DuPont like it's like he literally is in love with it. He talks like when there's a blurb in that book where he talks about being on the beach, like partying all night and then watching the sunrise on the beach. Everybody's kind of popping their own bottle of Saison DuPont. Like, I wonder what happened that night. That sounds. I want to go hang out with whoever was there.
I mean, I want to hang out with Garrett Oliver anyway, but like, all the more reason.
But that was the coolest thing about and that book, the Brewmaster's Table. Go get it, read it. It's one of those books where I don't know how much it teaches you, but it's a fun read, and it's just like it kind of verifies your love of beer because somebody who like when you hear Garrett Oliver speak. You're like, okay, that dude knows. He knows. Yeah. And he's confirming what was in my head, which is this beer is awesome. And so that's like, yes, double awesome. So it's a delicious beer. And cheeses and something creamy, like I started with the little Creole season on my chicken, but if you did like my father-in-law has this creamy crawfish tail cream sauce that he puts on these little like sliced little croutons, the toasted cuts the baguette up and it's just like this perfect like unctuous this beer with that, man, just there's I'm even thinking, admittedly we got cucumbers are in season, and so I've made some cucumber sandwiches recently. And it's like, you know what, this would go great with little cucumber sandwiches. Granted, that's not quite the hearty like dinner time, but just thinking like, man, sitting around snacking on something when it's like 90 degrees up. 90, this is a sunshine.
Degrees.
Yeah, this is a sunshine beer. This will cut through humidity. This will be under the shade tree into the day, still 92 degrees at 7:30 at night. The mosquitoes haven't quite chased you inside yet. And you can just kind of look at your backyard and see your kids running around and just, maybe your dog's chasing after a whatever that bug is floating around, a mosquito hawk or whatever that is. And it's just one of those things where you're just like, thank God for this. And it's just it's one of those beers because it's so good, but yet at the same time, it doesn't distract from all of that. But then in moments where there's a lull in the conversation, like, oh yeah, this beer's freaking awesome. It's that. So
yeah. Cheers to that, man.
Yeah. Those are the moments right there. So, all right. Well, I think we could go on. I think that's probably why we should stop.
Yeah, we should stop because that's what it is. It's a beautiful beer for just enjoying life. And right now we got a lot of time and a lot of time to enjoy life. And I think there's a lot of things to be thankful for right now.
Yeah.
So, I think that like middle of summertime, this is a perfect time to just get some Saison DuPont, reflect on what you got going on in life, and just like live that good life.
Yeah. So, Saison DuPont, thank you for making this beer for all these years. And if anybody knows anybody there and can translate this to French, if they don't speak that much of English or Texan, then make sure you tell them we said howdy and thank you. And,
thank you. God bless.
God bless. And to Garrett Oliver, somebody get this up to Brooklyn and let him know that he's still right And so
imagine Garrett Oliver's like, well, of course I'm right.
Yeah. He's like, I know, you didn't have to tell me that.
Yeah.
And I will say my recommendation, Keenan, you can maybe if you ever my recommendation, try it for New Year's. If you're a beer, all that. Just if you're, I don't know, it fits so well. If you're walking around the neighborhood, that's kind of what we do now, and because so many people shoot fireworks and stuff, and then our friends are around the neighborhood. It fits right in between your middle finger and pointer finger. That little nub outside the top of the bottle. It kind of hangs there. You can pour it in a glass if you want, or heck, get rowdy and drink right out of the bottle. That cork is perfect for a New Year. That sound, that's promise. So in 2021 is guaranteed to be better than 2020, right?
Here's hoping that it is, because if it's not, dear, oh my goodness,
how could it get any worse?
Oh man, season 2 is gonna suck.
All right, well, we'll wrap there. Keenan, this is a lot of fun. I'm not gonna hide it. I want to do a whole lot of this.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I like drinking beer.
Let's set up on Twitter. InterBrews has Twitter. We're on all the socials. So if you want to message us on Facebook or Twitter or whatever else, we're on Instagram, anywhere you see us. If you have a beer you want us to deep dive into, and we could, with the technology being what it is, especially if it's local or anything like that, we can probably find somebody that actually brews the beer to jump on with us just to talk about said beer or whatever. And it doesn't have to be Texas. It can be like Saison DuPont that's in Torp or wherever.
Torp.
It's in Torpay and Torpy. And they, so yeah. Do you have if you had 5, do you have
you know what? If I had to, if you had to put a gun to my head right now and say hey, go pick up a couple of beers that are world class. You can buy them on the shelf right now and people aren't looking at them. I would probably say, again, gun to my head, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which I probably haven't had in 3 years, but it is a textbook style, it's textbook for the style for a reason.
Yeah.
Live Oak Hefeweizen, which I will fight a bitch. That Live Oak Hefeweizen is hands down the best Hefeweizen in Texas, and it is easily, without even having to drink other people's, it's the top 5 Hefeweizens in the country. And I can say that with my brewer cap on and my consumer cap on.
Yeah.
Left Hand Milk Stout is it is textbook. I am a big fan. I have a lot of sentimental connection to Chimay Red. Chimay, I believe that's Premier. Oh man, I got to think of a 5th one to round it out. But I'm sure I could think of a 5th one by the next time we do this.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So that's just a look ahead. So we're going to be doing every beer that he mentioned there. We're going to be doing and more and eventually, when life allows for us to have a beer together, Keenan, we're gonna do some beer and food pairing.
Yes,
the cheese.
I like to eat.
Yeah, all that. Anyway. All right. Well, we'll wrap there. Thank you all for listening to this inaugural InterBrews deep dive. Is that I feel like that's kind of a good name.
Yeah, it's a good starter. We can brainstorm on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, same place you're gonna suggest beer, so maybe suggest a name, and we'll figure it out there. So for everybody at Saison DuPont, Keenan, excellent job. Way to bring your big melon, your big nog. It's a wonder to hear. I love hearing you talk about. I can see the wheels moving, and I love it.
There's nothing quite like it, man.
Yeah, beer.
So,
go get
beer.
Go. Yeah,
beer. Cheers to beer.
Cheers to beer. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time on InterBrews Deep Dive until we come up with a better name. Keenan and Josh has me InterBrews and all that.
All right.
Toodaloos.
Bye, everybody.
All right, so that's it. That was 49 minutes. I'm glad I said 30, so we would keep it under an hour.
Yeah, we can figure out like a structure, a criteria or something that say like, all right, we're going to talk about XYZ and and also have a some sort of wrap up code word that's just like, petunia, petunia, petunia. Like, okay, that's the code for like, all right, let's wrap this up. Let's find a way to like put a bow on it and for, but